Hey everyone, this is Handzel Travel. We are in Lviv in Ukraine, and in this video we will show you what life looked like in Ukraine during the war and how the city feels and what's worth seeing in Lviv. Hit the like button and subscribe for more adventures from around the world. We thought long and hard about whether we should go because of safety, and we were worrying about the war in Ukraine, but in the end this trip turned out to be one of the best we have had in the last 6 months. Our journey started at the Polish-Ukrainian border. We decided not to drive by car because we didn't have time to get a green card, which is necessary for entry. Instead, we crossed the border on foot, hopped on a bus and headed straight to Lviv. Buses run quite often and a ticket costs 150 hryvnias, about $3.50. The ride from the border to Lviv takes about 1.5 hours. The last time we were in Lviv was 7 years ago for Valentine's Day, and wow, the city has changed so much for the better. As I mentioned before, to be honest, we were a bit scared to visit a country at war. We download all the air raid alert apps to stay updated on the situation, but thankfully we didn't need them at all. In fact, we almost forgot about the war because the city is so alive, the streets are full of people, restaurants are packed, and there are even quite a few tourists around. The only real sign of the war were the covered-up statues and some buildings with things explain that the covers were temporary protection. We also saw a lot of men in military uniforms walking around with their girlfriend or wives. It feels like Lviv had become a social hub and meeting place for many people. While exploring, we found an amazing store selling traditional Ukrainian clothing, especially handmade vyshyvankas. Of course, we had to get some. Each one cost us 1,700 and 1,900 hryvnias, about $40 and $45. We love unique clothes, and this will be such special souvenirs. One thing that really stood out was the attention to detail in every restaurant and shop. Each place had its own unique design, and some storefronts looked like art installation or festival decorations. You can really tell they put effort into attracting customers. Speaking of restaurant, every place had its own vibe. For example, we had coffee that was literally set on fire and drank herbal cocktails from test tubes. More on Lviv's food scene in our next video, so stay tuned. Since it was pretty cold, around 3 degrees on frost, we kept popping into cafes and shops to warm up, and in the middle we saw some attractions, and this is our stops was the books market, where we found vintage vinyl records and lots of antiques. Then we visited a place we will never forget, the military cemetery. Seeing the sheer numbers of graves was heartbreaking. So many people have lost their lives and the war is still ongoing. It was especially difficult to see the graves of young women who had likely volunteered to fight for Ukraine. It's so hard. For getting around the city, we mostly used trams and buses, and ticket costs 25 hryvnias and can be bought from a ticket machine by credit card. We visited St. Andrew's Church, a beautiful gold adorned church. We didn't really have a straight plan. We just wandered around the old town and soaked in the atmosphere. At the Galician market, we bought wool socks, super cozy in this cold weather, and herbal tea from the Carpathian Mountains. And this is Lviv's National Opera, reminded us a lot of Krakow's Slovatsky Theater. Right next to it, we found another market with handmade souvenirs and paintings. And also we came across a women's protest. They were demonstrating for their husbands and sons who are prisoners of war or have died in combat. A bit later, we stumbled upon a crowd and realized it was Dziga, a famous artistic cafe. Some sites, like the Boehm Chapel, were unfortunately covered in sarcophaging for protection. We saw it 7 years ago. It was absolutely stunning. Of course, since Lviv is the city of lions, you will find lion statues on almost every street. Here is our Airbnb. It's spacious and has that classic Lviv vibe. We noticed something interesting. The windows were taped in an X pattern, supposedly to prevent glass from shattering in case of an explosion. But weirdly, ours were the only ones that, like this, most windows in the city didn't have this tape anymore. The apartment cost $93 for 2 nights. Public transport has improved a lot since our last visit. There are new buses and new bus stops and apps with real-time schedules and live tracking. And that's it for today. This was our Valentine's weekend in Lviv. We are so glad to decided to come, and we will definitely be back for the amazing food and unique atmosphere. So we definitely recommend Lviv for weekend. So thank you so much and see you next week. Goodbye.